a lot for you guys having me out again today. This is my second time back speaking with you guys here at Search Wizards. So we're going to talk today about engaging passive candidates, and there's quotes around passive candidates for a reason. But before we get started, as always, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you have questions at any time, please enter those into the chat. Um, we can all see or type it so that we can all see your question, and we'll get started from there. So let's get rolling. So really quickly about myself, if any of you have not been on these before, I'm a sorcerer, I'm a practitioner. I work for Northrop Grumman, typically recruiting for engineers in the aerospace system sector, mostly cleared type folks. I've been doing the recruiting thing since 2007. Did push-ups for a living for a little bit, and I've got both agency and corporate experience. So, and a little pause, just a quick spot check again. Is sound coming through okay? Everybody can hear me, see my screen?
I can, yes.
Yes, good to go.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so this is what we're going to be talking about today. I want you guys to think about how your conversations with prospective candidates go. Everything that we do, we always want to continually churn and continually improve what we're doing. So even if things are working well, I want you to keep thinking about what's working, what can be improved upon as we go through this, and feel free to share as well. And a lot of this stuff that we're going to go over, you're going to see that a lot of it comes from the intake meeting. And I like to use the intake meeting not only just to figure out how to find folks, but also to really frame my mental conversation of how is, how am I going to engage, sell, and close these candidates on every step of the way. So, okay, and then also the time-old question, what is a passive candidate, right? So here are some of the commonalities that you may know about. So these people they're already in a job. They probably don't know you from anybody else out there. And depending on the statistics you look at, they say I've seen statistics that go all the way up to passive candidates are 40 to 90% of the market, but that data there is from an ERE study. But I don't like calling them passive candidates. They're not candidates at all. Candidates, they do something. They take an action to be considered for something, whether it's a presidential candidate or a candidate for in your applicant tracking system or whatnot. So I think when you call them candidates right off the top, it's almost like a mental block. These people have no idea who you are, and so they're not taking any action on their behalf. You're approaching them. So I call these people prospective candidates or prospective employees or whatever you want to call them. You can make your own name up for it, but the way we address them, regardless of how you, regardless of what you call them, is what we're talking about today. So, and then I like to always start with us. Before we even talk about engaging these folks, I'm going to go quick through this. I've seen a lot of the profiles of consultants there at Search Wizards, so you guys got this part pretty much under control. But I like to say start with ourselves, start with us, right? Think about the last, we're going to pause really quickly for viewer 12 saying he can't get in. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. So back to this, starting with you, think about the last few messages, voicemails, emails, text messages, however you're reaching out to folks. Think about what you said. Would you respond to it, right? And then additionally, candidates look us up. If they're really interested in the position, they do look us up. So what would a candidate see or a prospective candidate see if they researched you? And here's an example, right, of a good buddy of mine, Megan Columbus. She is a sourcing manager for PwC. Um, just right off the top, if someone were to research her, most people go to LinkedIn nowadays. Um, you can see exactly who she's with, what she's doing, and a clear, concise picture of her. That is not always the case. So I did a search on LinkedIn for senior recruiters, and this was the top 4 results that I pulled. And as you can see, it's senior recruiting, sourcing, talent acquisition, headhunters, squirrel wranglers, whatever you want to call us. 50% of us don't have pictures up. So what does that say? I mean, and turn it around this way, right? So if these were your connection requests, which one would you look at first? Would you look at the one without a picture or with a picture, right? More often than not, we're going to look at the one with a picture first. Just keep that in mind. And then to really drive it home, I don't know if any of you have seen these. They are visual maps, heat maps of where people look and how often they. This was a study that was published 2 years ago. So it really makes sense, right? People want to know. They want to see your picture. They want to know where you work. And then other than that, there's a few other places that people look. The same thing with Facebook. If you're using Facebook, you can see where people are looking. They kind of see your, of course, your profile picture, number 1. And then number 2, they look at your cover picture, some other things in and around. So when wherever you're recruiting or wherever you're posting your stuff, wherever you're reaching out to these candidates, if they reach back to you, figure out a good way to let them know who you are and what you do and what you're looking for, right? So an example, here's my Twitter page. And then here is a heat tracking study again for Twitter. It's a little bit older, but the premise is still the same, so we get it. So no matter where you're going to be with these pages, just make sure that you have a clear, concise way for people to reach out to you. I have accounts on all of these, and actually all of these sites here, depending on what you're looking for, make sure that your candidates can identify you and contact you, and it's other great places to search as well. So here's where we get into the real, I guess, meat and potatoes of how you're going to engage candidates. And I always start with the research. There was a great quote from Abraham Lincoln that's always said in the recruiting world, if you're given 6 hours to chop down a tree, you'll spend 4 hours sharpening the axe. I think Glenn Caffey said that, but beside the point. So let's talk about where we're going to research, right? And this is not what I call research. If this is your recruiting style, we might need to to hone in on some ways that we can improve and make things a little bit better. So we're going to start with our hiring managers, right? So now not everybody has the luxury of speaking with their hiring managers on intakes. So real quick, I'm going to take a poll of the audience. So how many of you, when you get new recs or new positions on your bench to work on, how many of you have the luxury of doing an intake meeting with either your hiring manager or someone within that organization? Okay. 1 or 2 folks saying, yeah, they do. Anybody not have the luxury of doing an intake meeting? It's okay if you do. I've been in both. Okay, good. A lot of always having the luxury to do so. Great. So not everybody does. So I know that sometimes it's a loaded question. So there's a few things that I like to start with hiring managers after I've received the job descriptions. I always say, Bill, we're going to work with Bill Lumberg, and for the rest of this presentation, we're going to use an Office Space name. I hope you guys have seen the movie, but if you haven't, it's still going to make sense. So whenever I get an intake request, I always talk to the hiring manager. Bill, I see what you're looking for, but what are you expecting out of these candidates? And a lot of the times, they're going to say superfluous stuff, and then sometimes they'll say something that'll really ping home with you. They've given you basic qualifications, and they'll probably not think twice about what they really want to hone in on the perfect match. So always ask the question. So for instance, I'm gonna ask that same question to Bill, and Bill tells me he needs a team player with a can-do attitude. They have a great report generation because they have TPS reports and cover sheets to do. That's probably something I should have a conversation with. And that's about it. That's really all he gives me, right? And he's looking for software engineers. So before I even start looking for software engineers, I'm going to take a look at the hiring manager, look at groups, affiliations, companies. Where has he been? Where did he go to school? How many of you guys out there do that now? For those of you who do research your hiring managers, if it's possible. Right, okay. Viewer 10, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but right on. Good job. Good job. So during that cyber snooping, looking at some of his previous companies that he's been at, maybe he knows somebody. If there's somebody that can already help bridge that gap, making that connection with that candidate is a lot easier. I also see if there's any previous employees that this person has worked with, maybe reach out to them if they fit the profile, things like that. So personality, cultural fit as well. The intake meeting, if you get your hiring managers, one, if you have the luxury, but two, if you have that conversation with your hiring manager, you can kind of assess them as well. Figure out how they communicate, their communication styles. If they're pretty laid back, then they're gonna more naturally accept and like a candidate who's just as laid back with them, and vice versa. If they're very proper and very polished, then that's probably what they would like as well. But when it comes down to brass tacks and the skill set's just hard to find, that part can go out the window. But again, something else to look at. So let's move on. So now what I do in the research is I research the company, and I'm assuming since most of you guys have said you have intake meetings and a couple of you guys said you research the hiring managers, do you guys do research on your client company before you reach out to folks? Anybody out there, just ping me in the messaging. There's a lot of good reasons for this. We've all had clients where if you haven't had a client that's had a bad reputation in what they do in their industry, give it some time. We all have clients that are trying to overcome some negative connotations, and they still need candidates. They still need great people to work for them and do the work that they do. So I always research the company as best I can. You can ask the same questions to the hiring manager. What do they think about the company? But keep in mind that's going to be from the hiring manager's perspective. But look at the culture, the benefits include non-traditional, like fringe benefits, like a bring your dog to work day, things like that. But I'll also caution you when it comes to benefits, and I'm sure a lot of you are on the same page with this one, is salary isn't the only reason that people stay, right? And the benefits packages. Absolutely, Viewer 10, Glassdoor is a great place to go as well. And also on Indeed.com, they have some good they have some great feedback there as well. It's very, very similar to the Glassdoor. So Viewer 10 was saying to use Glassdoor to research the company. But good benefits and good salaries and another reason why people stay. For instance, Google has fantastic benefits, fantastic fringe, fantastic just things you can do at work. They have slides and all that stuff. We've all seen the Google. I guess their corporate culture, we're all aware of it, but their retention rate is still about 1 year and change on a whole. So people still go and people still leave from Google. So there's reasons for that. So just because a company seems like they're awesome doesn't mean you shouldn't try and reach out to these folks anyway. So I also want to look at publicity. What's going on with the news with these folks, good or bad? Because if something bad is going on, that's something you need to be aware of. Because if a candidate hits you with that on the side, you have no way to address that objection. So always understand that. And that is a defensive point, but you know, it's something good to know. And for in this instance, for the Initech, the company that we're our pretend company from Office Space, um, on the market, it sounds like there's a couple of guys named Bob who are consultants to bring in, and they've been known to, on the good side of it, they've been known to increase productivity, but on the bad side, they've been known to lay some people off. So how would you address that? So kind of mentally think through that as well once you find information like that. Also with competitors, we're also looking for the things you already know: similar technology, candidate pools, any off-limit or preferred candidates, and companies. Are there any candidates that are better received from certain companies by hiring managers, things like that? If you can get those kinds of answers, great. Or if you can kind of find those trends in who they've hired previously, that's a great way to do it too. So researching the company. We're also going to look at growth opportunities, right? Like we all know that the guy Milton from Office Space, he had no growth opportunity, but he was still an employee there. And also just kind of figuring out growth opportunities. Look at your company on LinkedIn if you can, if they have employees that are on LinkedIn. See how they're growing. See how they're growing professionally within that company and how long it's taken. That's a great way to do that. And you can also ask your hiring manager that as well. So once we get all that taken care of, we always know this is the proper way to look through our search, right? You start with your ATS. Who do you already have in house? That's information that's already there in your hands. Then you go to your job boards because those are things that you pay for, and then LinkedIn. That's either you pay for or you don't. Quick question to the audience: do you guys have recruiter accounts? Okay. And everybody on the call has recruiter accounts? Okay, great. That's awesome. Okay, pending. Got it. Thank you, viewer 10. You go through social media, you go through forums. All these things can lead you to one, the candidates that you're looking for. But again, it can also lead you to a piece to connect with these folks. So we've done our search, and here are our prospects, right? We found Peter, we found Michael, and we found Samir. These are our top 3 candidates. We feel that we need to do some more research in, and we need to figure out a way to get them in front of our hiring manager. So let's take a look at each one of these folks, right? So I did a quick search for Peter, and on Facebook, this is his status, right? Now, a quick pause. If there's somebody who's trashing their job and trashing their work on Facebook, be very careful of that conversation. But this is just for the theme of what we got going on here. So that's an in right there. Once you do enough research and find his contact information or however, so that's a way to give him a shout. We also looked at Michael Bolton. He was pretty quiet on social media. However, I did come across his Spotify account. He likes a lot of R&B and a lot of rap. So that could be something. If you're yourself a connoisseur of the hip hop, rap, and R&B world, then maybe that's a commonality that you guys have, and you can possibly pick one of the artists on there. It looks like he listens to Adele as well. So that's a conversation piece, right? So I'm going to poll the audience. So has anybody ever looked at anything outside of LinkedIn and job boards for finding and engaging folks? And if so, type it in the message. Anything. I'm talking Quora, Instagram. Okay, somebody says Facebook community pages. Very well done. Very well done. Okay, so while and the last, our last candidate, Samir, we found his resume within our ATS. We've got contact information. We didn't really find much on social media. He's kind of a quiet guy, but based off of this right here, we have plenty to go after. Plenty to go after when you're contacting folks. So we've got social media, we've got resumes, we've got contact information. So that's the research on them. Be sure you look at, if you really want to find the right person, look at everything. I mean, for any of you guys out there doing anything technical, patent searches are great. Look at white papers, even blogs. There's a specifically Google blog search if it's an industry that pretty much that that will sustain blogs. Or even if you're looking for software folks, just look at what they read on their GitHub and Stack profiles. What are they talking about? What are they commenting on? Right. So again, researching the prospects. You got to find a way to frame a conversation. And so the reason why I circled IBM's financial market data ticker, that's pretty specific. So when I reach out to Samir, we'll show you a couple of examples here in a bit. I'm going to reference that because that's very key, and that will really pique his interest. That's not a very that's very specific, and it's not just a standard. Hi, Northrop Grumman has jobs available for software engineers. So it's a little bit different, getting a little more granular. So before we even reach out to these folks, perfect your pitch. I put this in here because we always need to be ready to counter the no, right? Or no, not right now, or you know what, it's really not the best time for me. But perfecting your pitch. And what I like to do, and I got this tip from Shally Stackrell from the Sourcing Institute. Before I start going after my top tier candidates, I will call somebody who might be a fit first, but probably not. I'll still call those folks. I'll call them first. I want to get that. I can write my pitch down. That's fine. I can say it to myself in a mirror if you want, or however you guys practice. But really engaging with somebody who's on the other end of the phone is going to be a great way for you to kind of get all the bugs out. Your first phone call, unless you're just awesome, and if you're this awesome, please let me know and let's network on the side. If you're just awesome to where the very first phone call of a hard search that you send, it's just perfect and everything's great, I want to know your secrets too. So ping me in the message if you're that awesome. But for me, the first couple of phone calls, I got to work the bugs out. So call your least likely to be a hired, but definitely worth a conversation candidate. Or what Shally says is just initiate a random conversation from the last two people that have connected with you on LinkedIn, regardless of what they do, where they are. Just try and generate a cold conversation out of nowhere, because not everybody knows all of their network. So anyway, so work on perfecting your pitch. You have 3 to 5 seconds to really garner their attention. So we don't want to sound like this guy. And for those of you who have not seen the movie, get referrals from the folks who may not want to move forward. I get the best referrals from those folks. Absolutely. Absolutely. Referrals are a great way to do it. And we all know we shouldn't be asking for referrals in an email at the very first time we speak to somebody. But so yeah, let's not sound like Milton, and let's keep pushing for referrals. Okay, so I put this in here. So boiling a frog. If you're familiar with the process, just hang tight. So when I say boiling the frog method, it's turning the heat up slowly. So the premise is that if you put a frog in a cold pot of water and you turn the heat up slowly, it'll stay in there until it's boiled to death, where if you throw a frog in a boiling pot of water, it'll jump right out, right? So what I mean by this is when you engage folks, don't bulldoze them. Don't hit them over the head with everything you got right then and there. Take it slow. Start with gaining the conversation. Once you gain the conversation, gain the interest. Once you gain the interest, then you can gain other parts of the conversation, whether you need a resume or if you can just do a LinkedIn profile or however you're working. Close them in pieces. You remember that always be closing thing? I get that, but close in pieces. Don't close for the whole kit and caboodle. Hey, you want this job? Let's go right now. Let's fill out some paperwork and we'll get you into an interview. Close it slowly. Start with a conversation, then move forward from there. Unless you're getting all kinds of buying signals from your prospective candidate, then you can close all day. But always watch for those hesitancy signs with them and listen for them. So a couple of examples that I wanted to bring up were addressing the no, right? So be ready to encounter the no. So for instance, I was on the phone with a software engineer, or excuse me, simulations and modeling engineer. He was in Florida, and the job was in California. Guy was perfect, and I approached him for it. He said, no, I'm really not looking to relocate to California. I just don't think it'll be. No, that's just not it, right? He wouldn't give me much information, so all I did was ask him, why is that, right? The first no, I get it. It's kind of hard to counter these, but you should always ask and probe. And even if it makes complete sense to you why they're saying no, ask why is that, or ask, can you elaborate on that? You never know what they'll say. And in this case specifically, and this happened in October of last year, I asked this same guy who was in Florida, who the job was in California. I said, well, why would you not want to move to California? What's holding you back there? He said he had a lease. It's expensive to move. Well, we at this specific role, we offered a relocation package that will cover breaking the lease fees, and he had no clue that relocation packages were commonplace. Don't assume that your candidates know. Anticipate questions about the job. Anticipate questions about what they'll be doing on their day in, day out. A lot of times working at Northrop Grumman, I have no clue what they're going to be working on because it's highly classified and I don't have that kind of clearance. But I need to get as much information as possible so that to anticipate any questions that these candidates are working on. Well, for this example, we're talking about the modeling and simulations engineer. I'm not able to figure out anything with the exception of that they're using CUDA. And researching that on the intake, the CUDA programming language is for massive amounts of modeling simulations in real time. So some of these answers may be in your intake, and some may not be. But be sure to anticipate questions. Keep your answers short. Keep them detailed and candidate focused. I'm a chatty Carl. I need to remind myself of this all day. I need to keep it as short as possible and as detailed, and be sure to just read and almost mimic the responses from your candidate. If they're being very quiet, then you should also be quiet. If they're being very loud and excited, you should be just equally excited. So kind of mirror your candidates. I put in here, be ready to counter the no again, because you can get that no at any point of the conversation. So, and remember to slow boil your candidates. Always be closing, but close them slowly in pieces, unless they're just raring to go. Questions, comments, concerns? We'll move on. And we're looking good from the audience. So let's get into some outreach, right? So this email study, there's tons of them out there. Johnny Campbell from Social Talent did one that differs a little bit from here. But this email study was off of 21 million folks, US-based email messages. The lowest common denominator are emails open in the beginning of the day, 6 a.m. to 12 noon. But this slide here is saying within the first hour after delivery, that's their shelf life, and it kind of drops by half after that. For my specific industry, I don't agree with these numbers, but from a national research on a whole, this might be you, right? But just understand that emails, regardless of what your industry is and when you're sending them can be effective or ineffective. For instance, for me, sending emails between 6 a.m. and noon is the best time for me because my folks are typically sitting in a room with no windows and fluorescent lights with no access to the outside world, and they get into work pretty early. So they're working in these security clearance buildings, and they'll check their emails in the morning, and then after that, they're not going to check it until lunch. If I email until after lunch, well, good luck, because after they get off of work, they're going home with the kids or doing chores or whatever errands, or just Netflix binging like some of us do, or whatever. So just try to visualize your candidate's day, right? So moving on. So for me, my first contact is always to generate a conversation, right? This is not time for me to just put a pretty red bow on top and close everything, right? I never send job descriptions on the first outreach, regardless, email, phone call, whatever. I I just don't do it. I want to talk to these people first before they look at a job description. Um, I try and keep it short and sweet, and I keep it focused on them. There's something for them to do, and I'm going to protect my time. So that's my basics for your first outreach, right? Um, I'll give you an example. So remember Samir. Um, we were saying that his IBM Financial Data Ticker was pretty cool, and he also had some action verbs in his own email, right, or in his own resume, excuse me. So my my subject line is going to be IBM's Financial Data Ticker with these three little dots. So if anybody on the call knows Steve Levy, I'll wait for those to come up. But Steve Levy is he's the director of sourcing for Steve Levy is the director of source reviewer for Right On. Let's connect after this. I want to figure out how you guys first came to be. It's always a funny story. Steve Levy is the director of sourcing for Indeed.com right now. And a few years back, he said, "Hey, AD, send me one of your emails you would send to candidates." All right, cool. And he helped me figure out the best way for this specific situation. But he put me onto the ellipsis, which is those three little dots after the end. If you're not using this, it works. It works all day long. It kind of tells them, hey, there's more. You should probably open me. You should probably check it out. And if you combine the ellipsis with a very short yet very honed subject, your response rates are going to go up. And this includes LinkedIn as well. Again, Samir worked on the IBM Financial Data Ticker. It's pretty specific to him. It also lets him know that I actually read his resume. So try using these ellipses when you do email outreach. And here's an example. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You guys can read it. But I highlighted the key points, right? This is a little, I'll be honest, to me, this is a smidge on the long side, just looking at it. Watch your aesthetics as well. So the green highlighted, that's what we're talking about. That's in his resume. Lets him know that I read it. The hands-on approach, that's something he put in his resume. So why not use it? And then the yellow part. So think again, visualize your candidate. Try and figure out who and what and where and how, everything you can visualize about your candidate. Engineers typically like to solve problems. Technical people like to solve problems. So I'm going to give them a problem to solve. We're currently re-engineering financial programs for our clients to address the Y2K software change. We have an open position on your team. Would you be interested in protecting my time? Tuesday morning and Thursday afternoon is the opening. What time works best for a quick conversation? His call to action is kind of implied. I'd like a conversation. I'm protecting my time. I'm giving him a problem to solve. So that's one great way to do email outreach. So before we jump into the phone, here's some more statistics, right? So when's the best time to call? to this study. This study was done, I want to say in 2014. Yes, 2014, and they are saying that Wednesday and Thursday is a better day uh, for you to make phone calls. To me, it's been a little odd. I actually track what days people respond to me best, and really um, the days aren't really what's a good statistic for me. The good statistic for me is the time frame. Most of the folks that I recruit are going to get to me before they go into work, at their lunch break, or after they get out, just because of the nature of where they're at. Um, so keep that in mind. Now, there's other studies out there, and your industry may be different. So do a little bit of research on that end as well. So here's an outreach for phone. This is a phone outreach that I think that I use all the time. Then nice hat tip to my buddy Josh Jones. Uh, he helped me craft some of this stuff as well, and we always bounce these off each other. But so this is kind of a good back and forth, right? I want to keep it short and sweet. And a lot of times, I'll be honest, it doesn't go this smooth. They say, "I'm sorry, who are you with?" Just repeat yourself nice and clearly. And sometimes, you know what? Let me stop you right there. I'm at work. Great. Well, then you skip down. Let's put some time on the calendar. We have a brief discussion. Just be as succinct and as clear as you can. Um, make it as short and sweet as you possibly can, and use the same kind of intel that you're getting from your emails. Um, give them a problem to fix if they're engineers, right? Um, reference any information that you have on them, like this Michael Bolton used to work at Intertrode. I'm going to reference that in my phone call. A lot of times you won't get that conversation right off the top, where you need to kind of pre-screen your candidate and kind of get them get them interested in your job. So a lot of times you'll have to book it to the calendar. So just keep in mind that the outreach is going to be the same between email and phone. Just keep it short, keep it candidate focused, and keep it interesting for them. And the voicemail. So this is where I wanted to do a hat tip to my buddy Josh Jones. I would always put my number at the end. And quite honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I really don't like checking my voicemail. I check my voicemail just to delete the icon from my phone. So I like to do text. So I don't know if you guys are texting out there, but I'd like to show you guys one of those. Once we get through the slides, I want to show you a couple of tools as well. So this is a good example of a voicemail outreach. I start with my name and I leave my number immediately. That way, if they have to scroll back through the message, they don't have to wait till the end of it to get my phone number. I immediately identify myself. Again, give them the problem, tell them what you're looking for, let them know that you've done a little bit of research, and see if you can put some time on the calendar. And then I repeat my name and number again. So if they don't get it in the beginning, they'll get it in the end. And if they still have to rewind the message, it's right there at the beginning. Really taking as many roadblocks as to these people responding to your email, responding to your phone call, responding to your message as possible. That's really what we're doing there. So, but I've incorporated that as well, and it works great. So, the cycle. So some people like to lead with an email, some people like to lead with a phone call. I usually do several different attempts and different combinations. So depending on what the role is, I'll lead with a phone call or an email, one or the other, and then I'll follow it up with an email or a phone call. Maybe hit them on social media if I can find it, or any sort of other contact, which I lump in with texting. I'll show you how I do text in a second. But keep it cyclical. Protect your time. You don't ever want to chase a candidate to oblivion. It's okay to give a candidate an ultimatum, but not like call me or else. You should give them an ultimatum like, hey, John Smith, this is the last time I'll be emailing you. I know you're probably pretty busy, but you have all my contact information. If you'd like to get in touch at a later date, here's my information, but I won't be emailing or calling you again. And 50% of the time for me, they'll call me right back. They're, oh my gosh, this guy's mad at me now. Great, I don't want to be mad at me. It works for me. be sure to, I mean, don't be afraid to say, you know what, this is my last time I'll try and get a hold of you. Again, you get some pretty good responses. But be sure that you're using your different facets of communication, whether it's email, text, social media, or what have you. Wherever your candidates are and how they're communicating is where you should be. And some final thoughts for these slides is mindset. If you're just having a horrible day, and your dog is, I don't know, your dog like peed on the carpet and somebody ran into the back of your car on the way to work, you got a flat tire after that, whatever is going on in your life, you got to fix your mindset. You have to have a positive mental attitude when you go into these, because we get no's all day long. If you've been recruiting for more than a year, you know that we get no's a lot, right? And it's not a numbers game. It's just, honestly, it's a little bit of luck and you being in the right place at the right time. Timing is everything, right? But if you have a bad mindset and you're angry, that comes through when you talk with folks, when you communicate with them through email. Well, maybe not email, but phone calls for sure. People can hear it in your voice. You can probably hear in my voice right now what kind of mood I'm in, right? Establish your goals. I like to say at the beginning of my day, for this specific rec, I'm going to get 5 people or 10 people or whatever it is that's feasible. Give yourself a reasonable and feasible goal to get to while you're doing these outreach, whether it's email, phone call, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, text messaging. Establish some goals for you to work toward. Don't be afraid to try something different. Everybody's using LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is great. It has its place and it has its own effectiveness, but don't be afraid to try something different, like WhatsApp. I have not yet had to use it here at Northrop Grumman, but if I ever get a job where I'll have to figure out what candidates are using though for the demographics there, then WhatsApp will be where I'm at. I mean, heck, if my candidates were on Snapchat, I would be on Snapchat, right? So don't be afraid to try something different. I personally don't have a Snapchat account, but that's a different story. So work dynamically, right? What I mean by this is you have candidates to get through your system. So figure out your schedule, be able to prospect and process dynamically. So figure out what time in your day is best for your phone calls and your emails, and then figure out what time in your day is best for responding to your clients, right? And it could be a hodgepodge. It could be a whole bunch of different timings, right? But just figure out how you can work best, prospecting and processing dynamically, because we can find them and contact them all day. But if they lose interest while they're on the vine, then it's kind of lost work. So be sure to figure out your own schedule and your own way to do that dynamically. So cool. This is the end of the slides. Here's ways to get a hold of me. And for the last 15 minutes, I wanted to take questions and I wanted to show you a couple tools. A lot of you folks at Search Wizards are pretty seasoned, so a lot of that stuff could be some review. I hope you've gotten 1 or 2 things that you can maybe dust off, or something that you've used in the past, but let me try it again. So I wanted to show you a couple of things. First and foremost, so bear with me a moment. I use Google Hangouts for texting, right? So what I do is I will enter a candidate's number, and that's my number. But as you notice, there's an SMS right here, right? I don't know if you guys text, but I like to text. I have a Google voice number that's paired with my Google Hangouts, and so I can send these people an SMS. And the cool thing is, if you have a number and it matches up with a Google Plus profile, it'll come up just like this, right? And it'll have other contact information if it's public. So really cool way to do some extra snooping and some texting. Reason why I text through here is because I do not want to put my fingers on a keyboard all day long. And then additionally, I can track it. I can keep track of the conversation. and it looks like a normal chat window, right? So if I send myself an SMS, it'll pop up. And so there we go. And see, that's the last time I was showing somebody texting, right? And so it's always there. So I think that's a really great way to keep track of your text messages. So polling the audience real quick. How many of you guys out there use texting? Anybody use texting right now? On the Zelda viewer 11. Hey, if you're up with Google products, give it a shot. So you must be one of those like power texters, viewer 11. You must be. There's another tool that I saw that I really like. It's called Crystal Knows. If any of you guys have seen it, it's pretty cool. Essentially, this tool right here. I'll drop it in the chat for you guys. This tool right here, there is a limitation to it. You can sign up for it, but it'll essentially give you a way to figure out the personality of the person that of the candidate that you're looking for. I tried to zoom in, but it's not working. It's really cool. It's pretty accurate. It tells you how someone's going to be best to respond to a message. Like for me, it's pretty accurate. It says that I like formal communication, which is kind of yes and no, but I give that a shot right there. And then the last thing I want to show you guys, I'm going to show you what I use constantly. So a lot of times we find the right person on LinkedIn, but we can't find anything else about these folks, right? At least not through Connectify or Profit, any of those tools that are pretty well documented. I use Pipple. This is what's worked the best for me. I'll give you a quick example. You put in just a name and a location, and it starts pulling stuff for you, right? And this is, let's see if this has the right information. Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff. A lot of that stuff is right. Most of that stuff is right. I wanted to show you one that pulls, I'm not 58 years old. You see this, people? I wanted to show one that pulls phone numbers, but often, 40% of the time, I'll get a phone number down here, right? And I also wanted to show you, and anybody out there using Pipple? Viewer 4, you're absolutely right. She is creepy accurate. And my wife is not on social media at all, except like that's a part of her. But it was extremely accurate for her, and she doesn't have as many accounts that we do as recruiting professionals. So yeah, I strongly suggest Pipple. That's one of the better ones. And then another one that I like is Truecaller. So if you get while you're doing research, if you get a phone number, let's do, I'll just do my phone number. This is one of the best phone number verification tools that I've used, Truecaller, and it tells you the name, right? So what I do is I'll find somebody on LinkedIn, and if they don't have information, I'll drop it in here. They typically will have something in here, email address or a phone number for me to go off of. For the folks that I'm looking for, they typically do. And I'll verify the email address through any of the tons of email addresses, email identification or verification tools out there. But this has really been the best phone number to use. So if anybody wants me to test their phone numbers on them, we can do it right now if you feel like giving your phone number to everybody who's ever going to see this video. Any takers? I just put mine out there, so don't be scared. We are not getting any takers, fair enough. So those are the few tools that I wanted to show you. For those of you who don't know, oh, hey, great, we have two. So let's just check it out. So now I might be able to know your name. Okay, so we'll go with viewer 4. Let's try you first. Big money, no whammies. Ooh, yours isn't in there. Interesting. Oh, 703. Okay. Dun dun dun. Nice. Okay. All right. Now watch. You guys are gonna turn me into a liar today. It works well for me, so I'm gonna keep using it. 281 3095. Let's go to viewer 11. Hi Liz, nice to meet you. Viewer 11, tell me if that's you. I have no idea if you're like, okay, it's you. Hi back. Cool. All right. So viewer 5 and viewer 11. Do you find that? Or I'm sorry, Liz. Do you find that creepy that it's in there? Just curious. Ah, makes sense. So we're going to go to viewer 5, 858-342-4802. So this is just so you can see the, oh my, I'm pretty sure this Aunt Sally's vacation home and breakfast. Huh. Okay, so viewer 5, unless I typed it wrong, that's what it's coming up as. So I'm assuming that's not correct. Oh, that is correct. Okay, great. Okay, cool. So just a few tools. Let me drop the links to these in the chat. You guys feel free to use them. We're coming up on the end of the hour, so I'll leave it open. Any questions, comments, concerns about anything we covered today, or anything else? Anybody having trouble? Sure, no problem, or Liz. Anybody having trouble getting a hold of someone specific? If you have a LinkedIn profile to shoot me, I can try and do some research on the side. We can do that as well while we have a few minutes left. If nobody has any of that, I'll leave the chat open. But we're good. We've had a great time always coming and hanging out with you guys. Thanks for all your participation. So viewer 5 asks, what is the best way to find a phone number? I use a bunch of different tools. I've used the white pages. I've used Pipple. I've used well, I'll give you I'm pretty sure most people know about these. I'll show you this part. So a lot of times I use Connectifier and Profit, those types of stuff, these pop-outs, like right here. And they're accurate as well, for the most part, if they have phone numbers. But there's really no best way, in my personal opinion, besides just comparing and compiling different places. So if you go to the white pages or to any of these other personnel finders, you just kind of have to hunt through the weeds a little bit. Also, if you, I've also found them through Facebook, believe it or not. Like, people still don't put their phone numbers as private information, so that's a good way. Like, for instance, and since we're on social media, my typical disclaimer is here, right? So if you see anything crazy, just remember, it's social media. I can't control it. I'll click out of it. So I've typed numbers in Facebook like this before for verification, and a lot of times it comes up. Even sometimes if they don't have their number public, I've seen it where I've typed in a number, it pulled up a profile, but for some reason when I go to their page, it's not listed on there. Maybe it was a bug, I don't know. But there's I use anything and everything to get my hands on. So, but for the most part, finding the phone number has been through those people, aggregators, Profit, Connectifier, things like that. So I hope I answered your question satisfactorily. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? Cool. Alrighty, well, I'll end it from here. You guys have a great day. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for participating. And we'll see you guys the next time around. Have a great day, and feel free to, I'll leave my, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll leave my contact information up as well. So have a great day, and thanks for hanging out.